Chapter 1. The worst part wasn't the chains. No. The cold iron biting into her wrists, the raw chafe that was just life. The scratchy burlap shift they gave her was just a fact. The worst part was the smell. It was the smell of the holding pen, a coppery, sour tang of old fear and unwashed bodies. It crawled under her skin, and it stayed there. Malia squeezed her eyes shut. Don't feel. Don't reach. Don't think. But her gift didn't ask for permission. Thump thump. Crack. She flinched. Her body moved on instinct, turning her head. Across the dim, sawdust-covered floor, a big guard had shoved another Omega. The man went down hard. His ankle felt it. A sharp, splintering agony that wasn't hers. Her hands twitched. They ached. They itched with a power she refused to name. No. Deep down, she knew the truth. This gift wasn't a gift. It was a curse. It was a weakness. Because it had never saved her. It only let her feel the world's pain, 1,000 different agonies, while she stood chained and helpless. It did nothing but it hurt. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, huddled against the wall. She was sobbing. Tiny, choked sounds. Before she could move, before she could think, the girl crawled over. She grabbed Malia's hand. Malia gasped and yanked it back. The girl's terror was scalding. It felt like acid. Don't, Malia whisper, her voice trembling. The girl's eyes widened, her lip wobbling. She thought Malia was being cruel. She didn't understand. She couldn't know that Malia's touch would only make her feel the girl's pain, too. Lot 14B. The auctioneer's voice boomed from outside, slick and cheerful. A healthy Omega female. Good for breeding, good for work. Do I hear 500? Malia's stomach twisted. She was 14C. She was next. Maybe it was fate. Maybe this was it. Maybe she'd be sold to some fat, wheezing merchant. Someone who would work her until her back broke or her spirit shattered. Thump. 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 Her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might burst. And sold. To the alpha in the green. The guards moved. Their boots crunched in the dirty sawdust. You. Healer, one of them grunted, grabbing her arm. Her breath caught. He didn't mean her. He couldn't. Without warning, the heavy wooden doors to the pen slammed open. But they didn't slam shut. They stayed open. And the whole pen went silent. The auctioneer's voice stopped. Mid-word. As the silence stretched, a new scent hit the air. It wasn't the smell of ale, or unwashed bodies, or even fear. It was cold. It smelled like pine needles after an ice storm. Like ozone before a lightning strike. It was an absolute smell of absolute power. A shadow fell across the doorway. Then another. 2 alphas stepped inside, their presence sucking all the air from the room. The guards flattened themselves against the wall. The first one was massive. Not just tall. He was built like a fortress, all hard lines and lethal intent, wrapped in expensive black leather. His dark hair was cut short, practical. His face was hard, carved from granite. And his eyes. His eyes were the color of a frozen sky. But it was the man beside him, the older one, that made Malia's blood turn to ice. He was leaner, with graying hair and eyes that missed nothing. His stare was a physical weight. It was a scalpel, dissecting everyone. Judging. Finding them weak. She heard a whimper. The little girl was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. The big alpha, the one who felt like a storm, his gaze swept the room. It was cold. Dismissive. He wasn't looking at them. He was looking for something. At that moment, Malia knew. This wasn't a merchant. This wasn't a farmer. This was the whisper. The rumor. The campfire story used to scare unruly pups. This was the king of the Ironclaw. The pack that didn't believe in weakness. The pack that banned healing. Chapter 2. From there, everything tilted. The world narrowed to the scent of pine and the sound of her own blood roaring in her ears. King Khal didn't look at the guards. He didn't look at the other Omegas cowering in the straw. The moment their eyes locked, her breath hitched. It wasn't hot. It wasn't a desire. It was possession. It was like a wolf spotting a rabbit. A hawk seeing its prey. He looked at her, no, he looked into her. As if he could see the itching, aching power she kept locked beneath her skin. As if the world narrowed, there was only him. The older alpha, Scott, leaned in. His voice was a low growl. "Kala healer? Here? Are you forgetting the blood? Are you forgetting what they did to us?" King Kyle didn't even turn his head. His frozen gaze stayed locked on Malia. "I am forgetting nothing, uncle." His voice, oh, gods, his voice was a rumble. It was low, rough, and absolute. Like stones grinding together. "That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here." The words echoed in the terrifying silence. He knew. Her world tilted. How? How could he possibly know? She had never used her gift. Not where anyone could see. Because she knew it was a death sentence. She didn't know what scared her more. The fact that this brutal king, this killer, wanted to buy her. Or the fact that he already knew her one unforgivable secret. The guard who had grabbed her was shaking. "My king," the man stammered, shoving Malia forward. "This is Lot 14C. We were just taking her to the block." Scott's eyes raked over her. It was a physical, violating touch. His lip curled. "She's nothing. She's a half-starved Omega, Kyle. She stinks of fear. This is a mistake." As the silence roared, Kyle took one step forward. And then another. With every step he took, the air thickened. It crackled. A strange, primal hum started under Malia's skin. Her own wolf, a tiny, starved thing she hadn't felt in years, it shivered. Not in fear. In recognition. He stopped. Right in front of her. He was so tall. She had to crane her neck to look up at him. He was her buyer. He was her master. He was her end. He didn't speak to her. He spoke to the guard. "Name your price for the entire pen." The guard's jaw dropped. "Yes, sir?" "All of them," Kyle said. His voice was flat. "And her." He pointed. At Malia. "I'll pay double for her." Scott growled. "Kyle, this is madness. We don't coddle weakness. We destroy it. That is our law. The law I wrote in our pack's blood." "I am aware of our laws," Uncle Kyle said, still not looking away from Malia. Under the weight of his stare, she felt her skin burn. "I am also aware of my needs." Without another word, he turned. "See it done." He and Scott swept out of the room, leaving a vortex of silence and cold terror behind them. The guard stared at the open door. Then he looked at Malia. His face was pale. Just like that, her fate was sealed. She hadn't been sold to a merchant. She'd been claimed by the one alpha in the world who would see her gift her curse as the ultimate crime. As the echo faded, the little girl started crying again. But this time, the sound was different. It wasn't just fear. It was hope. Because of that, Malia knew her new life was about to begin. She had been bought by the ruthless Alpha King. And she had a terrible, sinking feeling that she was the only one who knew he'd just bought the one thing that could destroy him. Chapter 3. The fresh air hit Malia like a slap, but then, it was gone. She was shoved into the back of a dark, windowless wagon. It smelled of iron, old leather, and him. That cold, pine and ice scent. His power. It clung to everything. As a result, she couldn't even breathe without tasting his authority. What followed was a lurch. The wagon wheels crunched on gravel and they were moving. Malia was pressed shoulder to shoulder with two other Omegas from the pen. But then, her head snapped up. She looked around in the darkness. The little girl, the one with the terrified eyes. She was gone. To make things worse, Malia didn't know if that was a good thing or a very, very bad thing. Did Call separate her for safety or for something else? A new, colder fear settled in Malia's stomach. The journey was a long, dark silence. Hours. The wagon rocked and jolted. No one spoke. With every heartbeat, the dread grew. It was a dread so thick it felt like she was drowning in it. Eventually, the wagon stopped. The air changed. It felt thinner. Colder. As if pulled by a string, Malia found a tiny crack in the wooden slats. She pressed her eyes to it. And her breath caught. She saw it. The Ironclaw Citadel. It wasn't a home. It wasn't even a fortress. It was a scar. It was a wound of sharp, black rock gouged into the side of a frozen mountain. High, cold walls, no color, no warmth. In fact, it looked like it had been built from the bones of a dead dragon. And there were wolves. Massive wolves with fur like shadows, patrolling the perimeter. Not guards. Just wolves. Her heart skipped. This was not a pack. This was a prison. The wagon door flew open. Light flooded in, blinding her. Out! All of you. Now! The voice was like gravel. It was one of Kyle's men. His eyes were as hard and gray as the stone walls. They were herded into a main courtyard. It was empty. No, not empty. It was silent. Dozens of pack members were there. Training. Punching wooden posts. Sparring with knives. But then, she saw why it was so quiet. They moved with a brutal, silent focus. Even so, they all stopped to stare. Their eyes. Gods, their eyes. They were hard. Judging. Hungry. Her breath caught. There was no laughter here. There were no children playing. There was just discipline. And the sharp, metallic smell of steel. Without warning, King Kyle was there. He just appeared from a massive stone doorway, Scott right beside him. His presence sucked the air right out of Malia's lungs. Put them in the servants' quarters, Kyle's voice rumbled. It echoed off the stone. All of them. Except. His eyes found her. Again. That icy, possessive stare. Her. Scott stepped forward. His voice was a low, urgent growl. Kyle, the girl is a liability. You know what she is. Let me deal with her. Before she poisons the pack. Her thoughts spun. Deal with her? He meant to kill her. Kyle didn't look at his uncle. He looked only at Malia. She is my property, uncle. And you will not touch her. The space between them burned. She will stay in the East Tower. Alone. Malia's blood ran cold. The East Tower? Alone? She didn't know what scared her more, being thrown to the wolves in the servants' quarters, or being isolated by the king. Because being isolated meant she was special. And this special place was dangerous. A guard grabbed her arm. His grip was like a steel trap. But then she felt it. She felt it clear as day. An old break in his wrist. It was healed wrong. The bones grated. It sent a dull, throbbing ache up his arm. Her body moved on instinct. She flinched. She gasped and tried to pull away, not from his grip, but from his pain. The guard snarled, yanking her forward. What's wrong with you, Omega? As the silence stretched, Kyle's eyes narrowed. He saw it. He saw her flinch. He saw her reaction. And his face gave nothing away. He knew. He knew what she just felt. Take her, Kyle commanded, his voice flat. And cold. So cold. Chapter 4. That night, the guard locked her in. The room in the East Tower was bare. A thin cot. A wooden bucket. A single, high window that was just a slice of moonlit sky. It was cold. The stone walls seemed to breathe ice. Malia wrapped her thin arms around herself. Alone. He had left her alone. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't stop shaking. She was a prisoner. She was a secret. And she was in the den of the one pack in the world that murdered healers. As the silence roared, she heard it. Whimper. A tiny thin sound. It cut through the moaning of the wind. Whine. Malia froze. No. She wasn't going to listen. She couldn't. She had to survive. She had to stay invisible. Deep down, she knew the truth. It was that curse. Her gift. It wouldn't let her rest. The sound pulled at her. It was demanding. Howl. It wasn't a howl. It was a scream of pain. Her wolf pressed forward. No, 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 she whispered to the empty room. But her feet were already moving. She dragged the small, rickety cot under the window. Her hands trembled as she climbed up. Her breath caught. Below in a small, hidden yard she saw it. A wolf. Not a pup. Barely a year old. It was lying on its side in the mud. Its leg. Oh gods. Its leg was bent at a terrible, sickening angle. She felt it clear as day. The sharp, splintering crack of the bone. The fire of infection was already starting. It was dying. At that moment, her choice was made. She could stay in her room. She could be safe. She could ignore the pain and let that pup die in agony. Or, she could go down there. She could risk everything. She could risk the fire because she wouldn't let another living thing suffer. And, just like that, everything changed. Her misbelief that her gift was a weakness felt like a lie. Because right now it was the only thing that mattered. Without thinking, she looked at her door. Locked. The window? Too high to jump. But then she saw the stones of the wall. Maybe it was fate. Some of them were loose. She jumped down. She ran to the wall. She pulled. Her fingers, already raw, started to bleed. Scrape. Pull. Wiggle. The air thickened with her panic. The stone gave. Another. Another. She made a hole. It was barely big enough. She squeezed through stones tearing at her burlap shift. And she fell. She landed hard. Pain shot up her ankle, but then, it was gone. It was swallowed and eaten by the other pain. The pup's pain. She crawled to it. The mud and ice soaked her. Shhhh, I'm here. The pup growled. A tiny weak sound. Its golden eyes were glazed with fever. Her hands trembled. She placed them on its mangled leg. I'm sorry, she whispered. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, the power surged. It felt warm. It felt right. She didn't know how she knew. She just did. She felt the bone fragments. The torn muscle. She pushed. Not with her hands. With her. The power flowed out a river of liquid gold, bright in the darkness. In the span of a breath, she felt the bone knit. The torn flesh sealed. The infection just evaporated. The pup sighed. It licked her hand. And she let it happen. She smiled. A real smile. It felt strange. It felt good. Then the shadow fell. I knew it. The voice was a low, cold snarl. Her world tilted. She froze. Without warning, a heavy boot kicked her. Hard. She cried out, rolling in the mud. It was Scott. His eyes were burning. Not with heat. With cold, righteous fury. You abomination, he hissed. You have signed your own death warrant. He raised his boot to strike her again. Stop. The word was just one word. It wasn't a shout. It was a low, deadly rumble. But it froze Scott in place. To make things worse, Malia looked up. King Kyle stood in the doorway. He wasn't looking at her. He wasn't looking at Scott. He was looking at the pup. The pup that was now standing. Standing on 4 perfectly healed legs. As the silence roared, Kyle slowly lifted his gaze from the pup. And he looked at her. His face was a mask of ice. Unreadable. Terrifying. The space between them burned. Scott snarled, his fury making him bold. I told you, my king. She is a curse. She brings the old weakness. The law is clear. Give the order. I will end this now. Malia's heart stopped. This was it. This was the end. She broke their law. She was the thing they hated. Kyle held up one hand. He looked from Scott to the healed pup. And then to Malia, shivering, bleeding, and covered in mud. His voice was quiet. You will do nothing, uncle. Before either could speak, he took a step forward. Take her to my chambers. Now. Chapter 5. The guard's hand was like a vice on her arm. He didn't just walk her, he dragged her. Up spiral stairs, down cold, echoing halls. With every step, Malia felt the eyes of the citadel on her. They passed warrior servants and all of them stopped. They stared. Their faces were a mix of confusion and cold, hard hate. She wasn't just a prisoner. Her world tilted. She was a symbol. She was the weakness the king had allowed inside the walls. But then, they reached the door. It was massive, carved from black, ancient-looking wood, bound with iron. The guard didn't knock. He slammed it open, shoved her inside and pulled it shut behind her. Clack. Thump. The heavy sound of a bar sliding into place. Locked. As the silence stretched, Malia stayed where she'd stumbled, frozen on the floor. The room was huge. But then, it felt empty. A massive, unlit fireplace dominated one wall. A bed piled high with black furs took up another. And the scent. It was him. That cold, sharp, pine and ice scent. It was everywhere. It was in the air, in the furs and the stone. It was suffocating. Get up. His voice came from the shadows near a tall, slit window. Her heart skipped. He was just standing there. A silhouette against the cold moonlight. Without thinking, Malia scrambled to her feet. She backed away until her back hit the rough, cold stone of the wall. He stepped out of the shadow. His face was a mask. Cold. Hard. Nothing like the man who had faced his uncle. "You know our law," he stated. It wasn't a question. Her voice trembled. Aye. You know our law." "Yes," she whispered. "And you broke it." Her chest ached. It was just a puppet was in pain. The tension broke. Pain? The word wasn't a shout, it was an explosion. He lunged across the room, not at her but at the fireplace. He slammed his fist against the cold stone. Crack. Malia screamed. He didn't even flinch. Without warning, he turned. His eyes, oh gods, his eyes were not ice. They were on fire. A terrible, burning, agonized fire. "You know nothing of pain," he growled. The sound was low, and it ripped through the air. "You stand there with your gift." He spat the word. "And you talk about pain?" He started to pace. Like a caged wolf. As if the world narrowed, she saw he wasn't just angry. He was broken. "I was a boy," he whispered. The sudden quiet was worse. "Younger than that pup you saved. My first pack lived in the Sun Valley. We were merciful. We were weak." Her breath caught. "We found a traveler," he continued, his voice rough. "His leg was broken. Our healer, my mother's sister, Shea, led him. She saved his life." He stopped. He turned his head and looked right at her. And, just like that, he left. 3 days later he came back. With his army. Malia's hands flew to her mouth. "They slaughtered us." Kyle's voice was dead. "They burned the valley. I hid. Under the bodies of my mother. My father. I watched as they thanked our healer by cutting her throat." Her thoughts spun. This was the trauma. It wasn't a law. It was a scar. A scar that covered his entire soul. "Scott, my uncle, found me. He dragged me from the pyre. We survived. And we built this." He slammed his hand against the wall. "The Ironclaw. We built it on one truth. Strength. No mercy. No weakness. And no healers." In the quiet that followed, the only sound was Malia's shaking breaths. He stared at her. "So you tell me, healer. You, who broke my one sacred law. Why?" He took a step closer. "Why shouldn't I let Scott throw you from that window right now?" She didn't know what scared her more. His fire or this new, terrible emptiness in his eyes. She should have been silent. She should have begged. But then something inside her shifted. Because she whispered, her voice shaking but holding. "Because you saw it. You saw the pup. It was dying and I couldn't let it." She met his gaze. "And deep down you didn't want it to die either. Or you would have let Scott kill me in the yard." The moment their eyes locked, the air cracked. He stared at her. A long, long silence. He saw she wasn't just afraid. She was defiant. And she let it happen. He turned away. His broad back was a wall. "You will stay here. You will not leave these rooms. You will not heal anyone. Anything. Do you understand me?" She just nodded. Her throat was too tight to speak. He walked to the massive door. He didn't look back. "You are my prisoner now, healer. Not my pack. Mine." He left. The bar slammed home. And Malia was left alone with the ghost of his pain and the suffocating scent of the king. Chapter 6. Her new reality was a cage. A large, cold, terrifyingly intimate cage. For 2 days, she was left alone. Servants silent, terrified servants left trays of food by the door and ran. She was a pariah. The king's pet. The king's shame. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't settle. She paced his rooms. She touched the cold stone, the soft, black furs on his bed and a single, discarded leather glove. It all smelled of him. Pine. Ice. And that other thing. The smell of deep, old grief. Her wolf pressed forward. It felt safe here. In the center of the danger. She hated it. And it was the only comfort she had. On the 3rd day, the sound came. Scrape. Thump. The bar on her door was being lifted. Her heart skipped. "Kyle?" She backed away, her pulse racing. The door opened. But it wasn't Kyle. It was Scott. Her breath caught. His eyes were smiling. It was the worst thing she had ever seen. "Good morning, healer," he purred. "The king is busy. He's inspecting the borders." To make things worse, he stepped inside. He wasn't alone. 2 guards, massive, brutal-looking alphas. They dragged someone in. It was the guard from the yard. The one with the bad wrist. The guard looked terrified. Of Scott. My lord Scott, I didn't say anything. I know you didn't, Kale, Scott said, his voice so kind. It made Malia's skin crawl. But you're a symptom. A problem. As the silence roared, Scott looked at Malia. The king is confused, my dear. He saw what you did to that pup. And he thinks your filth has a use. He thinks we can control the weaknesses. The curse that got his family murdered. Scott smiled. I am here to prove him wrong. She didn't know what scared her more. Scott or the terrible, gleaming hope in the guard Kale's eyes. He wanted her to. No, Malia whispered, backing away. He forbade it. The king, he said. The king is not here, Scott snapped. He turned to Kale. The healer won't help you. Kale's face crumpled. But my wrist, I can't hold a sword. I know, Scott said softly. Without warning, Scott grabbed Kale's arm. Crack. A sickening wet sound. Kale screamed. A high, terrible sound. He dropped to his knees, clutching his arm, which was now bent at a new, horrifying angle. Her body moved on instinct. Malia lunged forward. No. The pain slammed into her. It was a white-hot, agonizing shriek in her mind. It was unbearable. Her hands started to glow. That soft, golden light. She couldn't stop it. She had to fix it. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, she reached for Kale. And Scott just watched. He smiled. That was the test. That was the trap. Go on, healer, Scott whispered, his voice full of triumph. Heal him. Show him that mercy. Show him the weakness that will kill us all. She was frozen. Her hands shaking, glowing, hovering over the guard's shattered arm. Kale was sobbing. Please, please. She looked at Scott. His eyes were dead. If she healed him, she proved Kyle wrong. She proved she was a curse. She would be executed. If she didn't. If she let him suffer. Her chest ached. She couldn't. Before she could move. Before she could choose. Slam. The chamber door flew open, smashing against the stone wall. Kyle. He stood there. He was supposed to be at the borders. His eyes were black with fury. His scent, pine and icy, flooded the room. He saw it all. He saw Scott smiling. He saw the guard writhing, screaming on his floor. And he saw her. Kneeling. Her hands blazed with golden, forbidden power. As the silence roared, Kyle's voice was not a voice. It was the sound of a mountain breaking. Scott. What have you done? Chapter 7. In the echo of his voice, the room froze. The air turned to glass. Sharp and ready to shatter. Scott actually flinched. But then his own rage surged back. His face turned a dark, ugly red. What have I done? He snarled. I have done what you were too weak to do. I am testing her. I am proving, because I must, that this filth is a poison. He pointed a shaking finger at Malia. She is the same as the one who killed your mother. And you let her live in your rooms. As the silence roared, Kyle didn't move. He just watched his uncle. His voice, when it came, was so cold. So deadly. It cut through Scott's rage like a knife of ice. She is mine. She is a curse. She is mine. Kyle took one step. And Scott took one step back. Her wolf pressed forward. He was defending her. You will never, Kyle bite out, his voice a low, lethal growl. Touch her again. You will not speak to her. You will not look at her. You will leave my chambers. Now. The air vibrated. It was a command not from a king but from an alpha. An alpha protecting his. Malia's thoughts spun. Scott's eyes widened. He saw it. He saw the raw possession in Kyle's stare. It wasn't just about a healer. Oh gods. Something inside her shifted. This was new. Scott's face went pale. His rage collapsed into something else. Something colder. Something calculating. Without another word, he turned. He looked at Malia one last time. His eyes were not angry. They were full of pity. A terrible, terrible pity. As if she were already dead. Then he walked out. The door clicked shut behind him. In the stillness that followed, there was only the sound. Gasp, sob. Kale. The guard. He was still on the floor, cradling his ruined arm. The air thickened. The rage was gone. And now something else was in the room. Kyle turned. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at Kale. At the pain. Malia felt it. The throb, the grinding. Her hands were still glowing. She tried to pull the power back in. Because she was terrified. Don't. Kyle's voice was rough. He looked at her glowing hands. Her breath caught. He wasn't looking at her like she was a monster. He was fascinated. As if the world narrowed, he knelt. He knelt beside her. He looked at Kale's arm and then at her. You want to, don't you? He whispered. Her voice trembled. It hurts. I know, he said. His voice was strange. I can smell it. He looked at Kale. She can fix this. Can't she? Kale just sobbed. My king, please. Kyle looked back at Malia. His eyes were a war. Ice and fire. His past and his future. In the span of a breath, he made a choice. The choice that would change everything. Do it. Malia stared. What? Heal him, Kyle commanded. His voice was hoarse. He is one of my best. He is useful. I will not let him be broken because of my uncle's madness. That's why. He was a pragmatist. But it was more. Heal him, Malia. Her name. When her name left his lips, her soul answered. Without thinking, she put her hands on Kale's shattered arm. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, the power surged. It was not a trickle. It was a river. A warm, golden river. It smelled like ozone and life. A beat later, Kale gasped. He didn't scream. He gasped. Malia felt the bones ungrind. She felt them flow like warm wax. Click. They slotted perfectly into place. The torn muscle knitted. The skin is sealed. It took 10 seconds. Just like that, Kale flexed his fingers. He stared. Tears of shock ran down his face. It's. He looked at his arm. It was perfect. As if the forest watched, Malia swayed. She felt drained. Empty. Before she could move, a hand grabbed her arm. Kyle. He hauled her to her feet. He was so close. With his scent in the air, she felt dizzy. He was holding her up. His hand was burning. The air thickened. He stared at her hand. The one that had glowed. Then he looked at Kale. His voice was steel. You will never speak of this. You fell. Do you understand me? You fell from the wall. This never happened. Yes, my king. Kale scrambled to his feet. Thank you. Go, Kyle snapped. Kale fled. And she was alone with him. Again. Chapter 8. Moments later, the heavy door thudded shut. The bar slammed home. It was just them. The space between them burned. He was still holding her arm. His grip wasn't cruel. It was possessive. Anchoring. As if he was the one who was shaking. She felt it clear as day. His confusion. His awe. And his terror. What are you? He whispered. His eyes were fixed on her. He wasn't repulsed. He was hypnotized. I don't know if she breathed. Her chest ached. He had seen it. Her curse. And he hadn't killed her. In fact, he had used it. That's why his uncle's pity felt so cold. Scott knew. This would change Kyle. And Scott hated change. Without another word, Kyle let her go. He staggered back like she had burned him. He ran a hand over his face. My mother's sister said, his voice rough. She could only mend bones. It took her days. It drained her. He looked at her. You. It was instant. You remade him. Malia, she didn't know. I just push where it's broken. You are not a curse, he said, his voice low. He was realizing it as he said it. You are a weapon. My weapon. Her world tilted. A weapon? Not a person? But then, in this place a weapon survived. A pet was discarded. My uncle Kyle said, pacing again. He is right about one thing. Our past happened. Our pack is scarred. But he is blind. He would rather let a warrior die than change his mind. Because of that, Kyle was different. He stopped. He faced her. I have an elite guard. The Iron Guard. They are loyal to me. Not to my uncle. But then they are not loyal to you. They are broken. Old wounds. Scars. Things that ache. Things that make them slow. She knew. She knew where this was going. You will fix them, he stated. In secret. One by one. In my room. You will make my warriors whole. Her thoughts spun. He was creating a secret healed army. An army loyal only to him. This was not just about healing. This was politics. This was power. Deep down, she knew the truth. She was not a prisoner anymore. Not really. She was leveraged. She had power. For the first time in her life. As if fate demanded it, she stood up. Taller. Her voice shivered, but it did not break. I will. Kyle's eyes narrowed. He heard it, too. But she said. His head tilted. No one bargained with him. But the other Omegas. The ones you brought from the auction. What about them? He growled. They are cold, she said. They are hungry. They are not your weapons. They are not weak. They are just scared. I will heal your warriors. You will protect them. As the silence roared, he stared at her. He looked shocked. He looked. His lip almost twitched. A beat later, he nodded. A slow, sharp nod. Done. He agreed. He agreed. Just like that, everything changed. The tension broke. But it didn't go away. It has changed. It became thicker. Hotter. He took a step closer. You are brave, healer. He reached out. His fingers brushed her cheek. Just once. It was not gentle. It was rough. It was a brand. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, she gasped. As the bond pulsed, his eyes flared. He felt it, too. That zap. That pull. Before either could speak. Bang. 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 Heavy, panicked pounding on the chamber door. Kyle snarled. He tore his gaze away from her. What? My king. My king. A voice shouted. It sounded like panic. The boarders. The Bloodfang pack, they've crossed the southern pass. They've taken 5 scouts. Kyle froze. He looked at Malia. His face was stone. As the truth unraveled, he knew. Malia knew. This was not an accident. This was not war. This was Scott. This was the new trap. Chapter 9. As the truth unraveled, Kyle didn't move. He just looked at Malia. His eyes were glaciers. But beneath the ice she saw it. A flicker. A red-hot rage. He knew. He knew this was Scott. The space between them burned. He wasn't just angry at the Bloodfangs. He was furious at his uncle. Because Scott had dared to play this game. Using his pack as pawns. My king! The guard yelled again. Desperate. The tension broke. Kyle moved. He was calm. A terrible, deadly calm. Ready the war room, he said. His voice was flat. Summon the elders. And summon my uncle. Yes, my king. The guard fled. Kyle turned to her. The room was silent. Her pulse raced. He had to go. He would leave her. And Scott. She didn't know what scared her more. Scott knowing he failed. Or Scott thinking he was winning. You, he said. His voice was low. He looked at the lock on his door. He knew. He couldn't leave her. Not now. To make things worse, he also couldn't take her. To take an Omega. A slave. A healer. Into the war room? It was impossible. It was a weakness. It was exactly what Scott wanted. A beat later, he smiled. No. Not a smile. It was a snarl. It was the wolf. You are cold, he stated. Her thoughts spun. What? Your dress, he said. He gestured at her thin, burlap shift. Is filthy. And torn. He strode to a massive wooden chest. He threw it open. Without warning, he pulled something out. It was black. Black wool. A tunic. His tunic. It smelled of him. Pine. Ice. Power. He threw it at her. Put it on. Her body moved on instinct. Her hands shook. She pulled the rough burlap over her head. She was bare underneath. For a second. She felt it clear as day. His eyes. On her skin. It burned. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, she raced to pull his tunic on. It drowned her. It fell to her knees. The sleeves covered her hands. It was so warm. And it was like being wrapped in him. You are my personal attendant, he stated. Her world tilted. You will come with me. To the war room? You will stay behind my chair. He grabbed her arm. You will not speak. You will not look at anyone. You will only watch. Because he knew this was the only way to protect her from Scott, and to show Scott that he had failed. Just like that, everything changed. He wasn't hiding her. He was flaunting her. The war room was a pit. Dark stone. A massive round table carved with a map of their territory. And it was full. Alphas. Hard-scarred killers. The elders. And Scott. The moment their eyes locked, Scott saw her. Behind Kyle. Wearing Kyle's tunic. His face. It was drained of blood. Then it filled with a slow, dark hate. It was terrifying. My king, Scott said. His voice was poison wrapped in silk. You bring a pet to a war council? An elder growled. Call this is unseemly. The Bloodfangs have your men. Kyle ignored them. He walked to his high-backed chair. He sat, and he motioned for Malia to stand behind him, in the shadows. But everyone saw her. The Bloodfangs, Kyle said. His voice was steel. They took 5 scouts. From the southern pass. Scott smiled. That cold, horrible smile. Yes, a tragic failure of our patrols. He looked at Kyle. As if our leadership has been distracted of late. Another elder slammed his fist on the table. My son is one of those scouts, Kyle. And so is Kale. Your newest pet. Malia's blood ran cold. Kale. The healed guard. And an elder's son. This wasn't a trap. It was a checkmate. Scott stepped to the map. The Bloodfangs are here, he said, tapping a canyon. A fortress. The only way in is through the main pass. He smiled. We must attack now. In force. I will lead them. He was taking control. Malia watched. She wasn't supposed to look. But she did. She looked at the map. The canyon. And she saw it. Maybe it was fate. A tiny line. A riverbed. Dry in this season. It looked familiar. She felt it clear as day. This was near the valley where that pup had been hiding. She knew that riverbed. It wasn't just a riverbed. It led to a network of caves. Caves that went under the canyon. Her heart is thumped. Deep down, she knew the truth. Scott's plan. A frontal assault. It wasn't a rescue. It was a slaughter. He wanted them to die. So he could blame Kyle. Before the words left her lips. Before she could think. She spoke. No. The word was a whisper. But in the stone room, it was a shout. As the silence roared, everyone froze. Every alpha turned. To look at her. The Omega slave girl. Scott's face twisted. What did you say? Malia shook. But she looked at Kyle. And he was looking at her. His eyes weren't angry. They were waiting. Her voice trembled, but it rose. You can't attack the pass, she said. She pointed a shaking finger at the map. At the riverbed. There is another way. Here. A dry river. It leads to caves. The caves go under the canyon wall. She looked at Scott. It's a trap. You're sending them to die. The room exploded. Insolence. Kill her. The elder whose son was taken lunged at her. Before he could move. Kyle was standing. He didn't shout. He didn't move fast. He just rose. And his chair screeched on the stone. And he held up one hand. Silence. Instant. Absolute. He looked at Malia. His face was unreadable. You are sure? He asked. His voice was quiet. I am, she whispered. I saw it. When I was looking for herbs. A lie. But a good one. Kyle stared at the map. For a long time. A beat later, he nodded. Once. He looked at Scott. Your plan is deadly, uncle. But it is flawed. He tapped the map. You will take half the force. You will make a show at the main pass. Draw their fire. I will take my iron guard. And I will go through the caves. And, just like that, everything changed. He believed her. He had chosen her word. Over his uncle's. In front of the elders. This was it. The point of no return. Scott's face. It wasn't angry. It wasn't mad. It was calm. A terrible blank calm. He looked at Kyle. He looked at Malia. And he smiled. As you wish. My king. And Malia knew. She knew. That smile meant death. Chapter 10. The moment the elders were gone, Kyle grabbed her arm. He didn't drag her. He pulled her. Fast. Back through the halls. His grip was steel. Not angry. Urgent. As if the forest watched, they moved like shadows. He shoved her back into his room. Slammed the door. Through the bar. The air thickened. He let her go. And he just stared at her. His chest was heaving. Her pulse raced. You spoke, he breathed. He sounded stunned. In front of them all. You defied my uncle. He was lying. She cried. It was a trap. He wanted them to die. You knew it. It doesn't matter. He roared. He grabbed her shoulders. He will kill you for this. He was going to kill me anyway. Not like this. The silence roared between them. He was right. She had publicly humiliated him. She had saved Kyle's men. And in doing so, she had signed her own death warrant. Her breath caught. He was still holding her. His face was so close. His eyes that ice and fire. They weren't looking at her eyes. They were looking at her lips. Her world tilted. Kyle, she whispered. When her name left his lips, it had been a shock. But now his name from hers. It was a spark. The space between them burned. He was going to war. He was walking into Scott's real trap. And he might not come back. Before either could speak, he groaned. A low animal sound. And his mouth was on hers. It wasn't a kiss. It was a collision. Hard. Angry. Desperate. His lips were rough and hot. He tasted like pine and rage and winter. Her body moved on instinct. She didn't pull away. She grabbed the front of his leathers. She kissed him back. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, she poured all her fear and her fury and her new strange hope into it. He shoved her back against the cold stone wall. His body slammed into hers. Hard. Possessive. He was marking her. Claiming her. His hand tangled in her hair, yanking her head back. His mouth left hers to trail fire down her throat. Mine, he growled against her skin. Mine. The word vibrated through her bones. As the bond pulsed, she arched into him. Yes, she gasped. In the span of a breath. He was gone. He tore himself away. He was panting. Staring at her. His eyes were black with the wolf. Gods, he whispered. A knock. A sharp-coated knock. Tap, tap. Tap. Kyle shook his head. He wiped his mouth. Come. The door opened. A warrior. Tall. Scarred. He limped. His left leg was twisted. It was the captain of his iron guard. Malia, Kyle commanded. His voice was all king again. Heal him. Now. He is coming with me. This was it. Her commitment. She looked at the captain. He stared at her. His eyes were full of doubt and pain. She walked to him. She knelt. Without hesitation. She placed her hands on his ruined leg. And she unleashed the sun. The captain roared. Not in pain. In shock. He felt his bones snap back into place. He felt the old dead muscle flood with life. A beat later. She stood up. Swaying. Kyle caught her. Just for a second. The captain stared. He stood up. No limp. He stamped his foot. Nothing. He looked at Malia. And he dropped to one knee. My lady, he whispered. Not a healer. Not Omega. Lady. Kyle nodded. This was his new army. Roar, he said to the captain. She is under your protection. When I am gone. If Scott comes. You know what to do. Roar stood. His eyes were steel. Yes, my king. Kyle looked at Malia. One last time. The heat was gone. Replaced by ice. I will return. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't touch her again. He just left. With his new captain. To walk into the trap. The bar slammed home. And Malia was left alone. Her lips were still burning. Her body was thrumming. And she knew. That Scott's true war. Wasn't in the canyon. It was right here. Chapter 11. The silence. It was too loud. Kyle was gone. The scent of his kiss was still on her lips. Her body thrummed. But her heart was a cold stone in her chest. Because she knew. Scott was still here. For the healed captain, he was outside her door. A statue of new loyalty. A single guard. As the silence stretched, Malia paced. She couldn't sit. She clutched Kyle's tunic, The one she was wearing. It was her only armor. Her thoughts spun. What was Scott's plan? He was supposed to be at the South Pass. Why wasn't he gone? Then she heard it. Thump. 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 Heavy boots on the stone. Not one person. Oh God, so many. Her blood ran cold. Before she could move, a voice bellowed outside the door. Roar. Open this door in the name of the elders. It wasn't Scott's voice. It was the elder whose son was taken. Her breath caught. She heard Roar's voice. Low and steady. I cannot. By direct order of the king. The king is gone. The elder roared. He chose this witch's plan over the safety of my son. And then, Scott's voice. Calm. Reasonable. Deadly. Friends, please. Captain Roar is a loyal man. But he is confused. A pause. Tell me, Roar, your leg. The one that was broken for 10 years. It seems fine now. The air went still. How did you know? Roar growled. I know everything, Scott purred. And so do they. Malia pressed her ear to the door. Her heart pounded. You see, Elder Scott was saying. His voice was louder now. For all to hear. I told you she was a curse. Kyle resisted. But now she has infected his own guard. This is not healing. It is witchcraft. She has bewitched him. And she has bewitched the king. She sent him to his death. So she could take control. No, Malia screamed. She banged on the door. He's lying. It was useless. She heard the elder shout. He's right. Seize the captain. For the good of the pack. What followed was a fight. Fast. Brutal. She heard Roar roar. The sound of fists on armor. A groan. A sickening thud. As a body hit the stone floor. Roar. As the silence roared, Malia backed away. Roar? She whispered. Nothing. Her world tilted. He was gone. Her only protector. Scray away, Ipe. The sound of the heavy bar. Being lifted. From the outside. Thump. The door creaked open. Malia pressed herself against the far wall. Her chest ached. She was trapped. Scott stepped in. He was alone. His face was calm. That terrible calm. He slowly pushed the door shut. He didn't bar it. He didn't need to. Now the healer whispered. His eyes were full of glee. We finished this. Chapter 12. Malia scrambled back. Her back hit the cold stone of Kyle's fireplace. There was nowhere to run. Her heart was a trapped bird. He kissed you. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Her breath caught. Scott smiled. Oh yes. I can smell it. His scent. His arousal. His distraction. All over you. He took a step closer. He was savoring this. He is my nephew, Scott purred. My son in all but blood. I raised him. I forged him from the ashes of his mother's stupidity. I made him strong. His face darkened. And then you came. The same sickness. The same curse. And you are doing all my work. You're wrong. Malia cried. Her voice was thin. He sees. He sees that strength isn't just cruelty. He sees nothing. Scott roared. He moved. So fast. Like a snake. He grabbed her by the hair and slapped her. Hard. Her head snapped back. Pain exploded behind her eyes. She collapsed to the floor. He is a fool. Scott hissed, standing over her. A fool led by his mate bond to an Omega curse. He reached into his tunic. He pulled out a small dark vial. Her blood froze. You know what this is? He whispered. He uncorked it. The smell of gods, it was bitter. Like burnt almonds. It's called Blackroot. The blood fangs love it. One drop on the tongue. And the heart stops. She stared. Horrified. Where did he get that? He smiled at her confusion. I have many friends. And many enemies. Sometimes they're the same people. He knelt down. He grabbed her chin, forcing her to look at him. When Kyle returns, victorious from your clever little plan, he will find you dead. An assassin's poison on your lips. He will not mourn. He will rage. He will slaughter the bloodfangs. And he will finally be the king I raised him to be. He was going to frame the bloodfangs. He was using her death to start a war. No, she sobbed. No, please. Yes, he hissed. He tipped the vial. A single dark drop welled up. He moved it toward her mouth. Crera ash. The main chamber doors exploded open. Not creaked. Exploded. They flew off their hinges. Scott roared in surprise and jumped back, shielding his face. A warrior stood there. No, not a warrior. He was a ruin. Covered in blood. His own and others. His left arm was gone. Just a tattered shred of leather. It was one of the scouts from the border. He fell to his knees. "My Lord Scott." He gasped. "Run." Scott stared. His plan was ruined. "What is this?" "The pass." The scout choked. "Your men are pinned." "And the king." "The caves." It was an ambush. Malia's heart stopped. No. No. Her plan. Her caves. They knew. The scout screamed. They were waiting for him. Oh gods. Kyle. It was her fault. She had sent him to his death. Her chest caved in. A sob tore from her. "He's down, my lord." The scout wailed. "The king is down." The world ended. Kyle. Down. As the silence roared, Scott froze. He looked at the dying scout. He looked at Malia, broken and sobbing on the floor. He looked at the vial of poison still in his hand. And he laughed. It was dry. Horrible. Sound. "Down," he whispered. But not dead. A terrible gleam entered his eyes. Yet, he dropped Malia's hair. He stood up. He corked the vial. "What are you doing?" The scout gasped. "We must flee." "I am going to fix my nephew's mistake," Scott snarled. He strode past the scout. He didn't even look back at Malia. She didn't matter. Not anymore. Permanently. He was gone. He left her. Alive. Alone. In the wreckage of the room. With a dying scout. Kyle was dying. Scott was going to the battlefield. To murder him. To finish the job. And it was all her fault. She curled into a ball on the cold stone. And for the first time, she prayed for the darkness to take her. All was lost. Chapter 13. It was her fault. The words echoed. Kyle is down. 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 My plan. My arrogance. I did this. I sent him to his death. Malia curled into a ball on the cold stone. She was shaking. So cold. Scott was right. I am a curse. The same sickness. I killed him. Just like his mother's healer. A sob tore from her chest. It was a sound with no bottom. All was lost. A sound. Her head snapped up. The scout. The one with no arm. He was still breathing. Lying in a pool of his own blood. He was dying. As if pulled by a string, his pain called to her. Even now, her gift, her curse, reached for him. What did it matter? Kyle was gone. He told me, the scout gasped. Malia froze. She crawled closer. What? Kale, the scout choked. Blood bubbled on his lips. The healed one. He shielded the king. Took the spears. He told me to run. Kale? The guard. The one she healed. He saved Kyle? Her heart stuttered. He said, tell her. Tell the healer he is not dead. The words hit her like lightning. Not dead. Not dead. Her world tilted back into place. He is alive? She breathed. Not yet. But not dead, the scout gasped. He said Scott. Scott lied. He told the Bloodfangs the cave route. It was his trap, not yours. Her guilt. It didn't just fade. It exploded. It turned into a white-hot rage. It wasn't her fault. It was Scott. All of it. Kyle was alive. Wounded. Dying. And Scott was going to finish the job. Her internal flaw, that her gift was a weakness. It shattered. It wasn't a weakness. It wasn't a curse. It was the only thing in the world that could save him. Her body moved on instinct. She grabbed the scout. Where? She screamed. Where is he? The South Pass, he choked. They fell back to the standing stones. Scott, he is going there. Now. To make sure the king dies. No, she growled. The sound shocked her. It was a growl. Her wolf pressed forward. He won't. She looked at the scout. He was dying. Fast. His arm was gone. She put her hands on the gaping bloody wound. She had never tried this. Not this big. She pushed. She poured everything into him. The world went gray. She felt dizzy. But the bleeding, it stopped. The torn flesh it sealed. It puckered. It scared me. In seconds. The scout gasped. His eyes cleared. He stared at her. Gods. Get up. She snapped. She was so tired, but the rage held her up. I am locked in. Roar is gone. How do I get out? The scout groaned, sitting up. He looked at his sealed stump. In shock. The elders hold the halls. Scotsmen are everywhere. You can't fight them. I won't fight them, she hissed. I will go around them. Chapter 14. Her thoughts spun. Go around. The room. Kyle's room. A castle. An old citadel. There are always secrets. Her eyes flew to the fireplace. No. Too obvious. The window? Too high. The tapestry on the wall? She ran to it. She tore it down. Nothing. Just cold stone. Wait, the scout whispered from the floor. The Omegas. The ones you saved. The ones you bargained for. Kyle moved them. To the old kitchens. Made them safe. They know the citadel's guts. The servants' passages. Yes, her other act of defiance. That was her army. But how to get to them? She looked around the room. Kyle's room. The bed. The chest. The weapon rack. It had to be here. A king always has an escape. She ran to the wall where he had hid it. The night he told her his past. She pushed on the stones. Nothing. Nothing. This one. It was a little loose. No, it was just a loose stone. Frustration boiled in her. He was dying. Think, Malia, think. Where would he put it? Not somewhere obvious. Somewhere only he would know. She looked at his bed. No. The fireplace again. She ran to it. It was cold. And used. She reached inside. Soot. Ash. She fell along the inside wall. A carving? No. A handle. A small iron ring. Hidden in the soot. Her heart stopped. She pulled. It didn't budge. She pulled harder. With all her weight. Griethened. A terrible grinding sound. The entire back wall of the fireplace moved. It slid to the side, revealing a black hole. Stone steps. Going down. The smell of damp earth and dust. She looked back at the scout. He was pale. But he was alive. Go, he whispered. Save him. He is a good king. I will, she vowed. She grabbed a torch from the wall. She lit it in the glowing embers of a brazier. The flame caught. This was her final plan. Get to the Omegas. Get to the South Pass. Find Kyle. And heal him. As she stepped to the edge of the darkness, she clutched the black wool of his tunic. His scent. It was her strength. Her rage was a cold fire in her belly. I am coming, Kyle. I am not a curse. I am your cure. And I will burn anyone who stands in my way. She stepped down into the dark. Chapter 15. The darkness. It was alive. Her torch cut a tiny hole in it. The air was cold and dead. But Malia ran. Her bare feet slapped against the uneven stone. Kyle is alive. That was her only thought. It was a drumbeat. Alive. 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 But Scott was faster. He was going to kill him. Her lungs burned. The passage twisted. It went down, down, down. She didn't know where she was going. She just ran toward the pain. His pain. She could feel it. A dull throb in her own chest. Then light. A grate. She heard whispers. She scrambled up. She pushed. It screeched. She fell out into a room. A kitchen? Omegas. The ones from the auction. They screamed. It's her. The healer. One of them grabbed a knife. She's the witch. Scott's men said she killed the king. No. Malia gasped. She stumbled to her feet. He's alive. Scott lied. He's at the South Pass. He's dying. I have to get to him. The Omegas froze. An older woman stepped forward. You bargained for us. You got us blankets. He kept his word. Her eyes were sharp. I know a way. Through the old aqueducts. It will put you behind the stones. Come. They ran. The world was smoke and screams. The air stank. Blood. Iron. Fear. Malia burst out from a crack in the rocks. The battlefield. It was a graveyard. Bodies everywhere. Bloodfang and Ironclaw. The fighting was almost over. It was just dying moans. The standing stones. There. She saw them. Huge black shadows against the gray sky. She ran. Her feet slipped in the mud and blood. She didn't care. A dying Bloodfang wolf snapped at her. She jumped over him. Nothing mattered. Alive. 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 And then she saw him. Kyle. He was slumped against one of the stones. His black leather armor was shredded. There was so much blood. His head was down. He wasn't moving. Her heart stopped. No. But then a shadow moved. It detached from the stone beside him. Calm. Untouched. Not a speck of blood on him. Scott. I knew you wouldn't die easily, nephew, Scott purred. He was holding something. The small dark vial. Her stomach dropped. But don't worry. I am here to correct that. To fix your mistake. Just like I always do. Kyle groaned. He tried to lift his head. Scott. Shh, Scott whispered. He uncorked the vial. It will be painless. And then I will blame the Bloodfangs. The pack will have its rage. And I will have my king. A strong one. Me. He tipped the vial. Toward Kyle's lips. Get away from him. The scream tore from Malia's throat. It didn't sound like her. It sounded like a wolf. Scott spun. His jaw dropped. He couldn't believe it. You? Here. He laughed. A real bark of laughter. Oh, this is perfect. Fate seems to want to clean up all the loose ends. First, him. Then you. He turned back to Kyle. No. Malia ran. She charged him. She didn't know what she was doing. She just knew she had to stop that vial. Chapter 16. Scott snarled. He was an alpha. She was an omega. He swung his arm back to smash her. He was too slow. Her rage made her fast. She didn't hit him. She slammed into his arm. The one holding the vial. Pop. The vial flew up in the air. Dark liquid arced through the gray sky. Like a black rainbow. Scott roared in fury. Malia stared in horror. The drops were going to land on Kyle. Time stopped. Before she could move. Kyle, who was supposedly dying. His eyes snapped open. His wolf was there. He lunged. Not at Scott. At Malia. He twisted his body in front of hers. He became a shield. SSSSS. The black drops of poison. They hit his shoulder. His cheek. His neck. They landed right on his open wounds. Kyle roared. It was the sound of pure agony. The poison was in him. No. Malia screamed. It was the worst possible thing. It's her fault. Again. Scott laughed. A choked sound. You fool. You poisoned yourself for a whore. He drew a long knife. Now I will just watch you die together. Kyle was convulsing. The poison was fast. He gasped, arching his back. But his eyes were locked on Scott. With his last ounce of strength. The king moved. He didn't stand. He fell. He lunged at Scott's legs. He grabbed his uncle's ankles. And pulled. What? Scott stumbled. He was so surprised. He flailed his arms. He tripped backwards. Over the body of a dead Bloodfang warrior. The warrior who was still holding his spear. Pointed up. Shhhhchayik. A wet sound. Scott stopped flailing. He froze. He looked down. A wooden spear tip was sticking out of his chest. He looked at Kyle. His eyes were wide. Confused. I made you, he gasped. Fool. And he slid down the spear. Dead. As the echo faded, Malia didn't watch. She was on her knees. She grabbed Kyle. No, 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 no. He was shaking. His skin was gray. The poison was in his bloodstream. His original wounds were still weeping blood. He was dying. So fast. Malia choked. His eyes found hers. You came. I'm here. She sobbed. I'm here, Kyle. Don't leave me. She put her hands on his chest. On the wounds. On the poison. She felt it. The black root. It was cold. It was death. It was fighting her gift. Deep down, she knew the truth. Healing wasn't enough. She had to burn it out. She closed her eyes. She stopped being Malia. She stopped being afraid. She became the sun. She pushed. Not a river. An ocean. A tsunami of liquid gold fire. It poured out of her and into him. She felt the poison sizzle. It fought back. It tried to climb up her arms. It burned her. She screamed. It was the most pain she had ever felt. But she didn't stop. I will not let you have him. She screamed at the poison. She pushed harder. Whoosh. A light exploded from her hands. So bright. It pushed the smoke and shadows away. The poison evaporated. The wounds sealed. His heart, which had stuttered. Thump thump. Strong. The light vanished. The world went black. Malia was empty and collapsed. She fell limp onto his healed chest. And knew no more. Chapter 17. She woke up slowly. The first thing she felt. Softness. Not mud. Not stone. Clean sheets. The second thing she smelled. Pine. Ice. And soap. Not blood. Her eyes fluttered open. She was in his room. In his bed. The sun was streaming in the window. Her body ached. A dull throb. Kyle? Her voice was a croak. I'm here. The voice was low. Rumbling. Calm. She turned her head. He was sitting in the chair by the bed. Watching her. He was clean. Dressed in a fresh tunic. His skin wasn't gray. His eyes weren't black with the wolf. They were clear. The color of a winter sky. Alive. He was alive. A tear slid down her temple. You saved me, she whispered. You shielded me. From the poison. He shook his head. He stood up. He was so strong. So whole. He walked to the bed. He sat on the edge. He didn't grab her. He didn't loom. He just looked at her. No, Malia. His voice was different. The gravel was gone. It was just deep. You saved me. You saved us all. Her thoughts spun. Scott? Dead. His treason was seen by all. Roar survived. The one-armed scout. They told the elders. The Bloodfangs were paid by Scott. When he fell, they fled. It's over. He reached out. Slowly. He didn't touch her face. He gently took her hand. His thumb brushed her knuckles. It sent a different kind of fire through her. Warm. Safe. The law is dead, Malia, he said quietly. My uncle's fear died with him. You were right. His path was weak. It was fear. Your path. That is true strength. He looked at their joined hands. You are not a curse. You are not my weapon. You are the heart of this pack. Our cure. My cure. He lifted her hand to his lips. He kissed it. Softly. It was a vow. His eyes met hers. You are my Luna, Malia. If you will have me. Her chest ached. Not with pain. With so much hope it hurts. She didn't speak. She just squeezed his hand. That was her answer. He smiled. A real smile. It changed his whole face. It lit up the room. He leaned in. He brushed the hair from her face. Rest, my healer, he murmured. Our work is just beginning. And then, he kissed her. It wasn't a collision. It wasn't a claim. It was a promise. Slow. Warm. Deep. It tasted like pine. And ice. And home. And she kissed him back. Knowing she was finally safe. And finally free. Epilogue. 6 months later. The Ironclaw Citadel was different. It was loud. Malia smiled. She sat on a new stone bench in the main courtyard. She wasn't wearing burlap. She was dressed in soft blue wool. The air didn't smell like ice and old fear. It smelled like pine and fresh, baking bread. And laughter. She heard it everywhere. The sound of pups. A little girl with wild brown pigtails tumbled hard on the cobblestones. A sharp gasp. A wobbling lip. Her knee was scraped. Bleeding. A year ago that pup would have hidden. She would have bitten her lip and run. Crying was a weakness. Now, the little girl scrambled up and ran right to Malia. Luna. Luna. I fell. Malia opened her arms. Her heart aching with joy so fierce it stung. I see that, little wolf, she said softly. She placed her hand on the bloody knee. She didn't hide. She didn't flinch. The golden light flashed bright and unashamed in the midday sun. The pup gasped, which turned into a giggle. The skin was whole. Magic. Thank you, Luna. The pup scampered off to play again. Malia watched her go. Roar, now captain of the King's Guard, leaned against a wall. He saw it. He didn't sneer. He nodded. Once. A deep sign of respect. That was her new reality. You look happy. His voice. It still sent a shiver down her spine. But it wasn't ice. It was warm. Kyle sat down beside her. His thigh pressed against hers. He didn't hesitate. He took her hand. The healing hand. His thumb brushed her palm. As fire bloomed beneath her skin, it felt like home. I am, she whispered. He looked out at the courtyard. At the other Omegas laughing with the warriors. At the pups playing tag around the training posts. He was wrong, Kyle said quietly. She knew who he meant. Scott. He taught me that mercy was a sickness. That compassion would be the death of us all. Again. He lifted her hand. He looked at it like it was a precious jewel. But it wasn't. No, Malia said. She felt his strength flowing into her. She leaned her head on his shoulder. It made us strong. It made us whole. He turned. His eyes, that clear winter sky. They were full of a warmth that was just opening for her. In the middle of the courtyard. In front of their entire pack. Alpha King Kyle leaned in. And he kissed Luna. It wasn't a claim. It wasn't a promise. It was a fact. He was hers. She was his. The pack was healed. And for the first time in a generation, the Ironclaw was truly unbreakable.